Hello, history scholars. Mrs. Olson here. Today's lesson is titled The Atlantic Slave Trade, and the learning target reads that you will be able to apply knowledge learned about the Atlantic slave trade into evidence-based writing. So let's break down the learning target. Apply knowledge learned. You are going to be watching these two videos here, and then hopefully you learn from them about the Atlantic slave trade, and the assignment is going to be using evidence-based writing. Now, some of you are going to say, well, don't you always want us to use evidence-based writing? The answer to that is yes. Today, I have a template for us to follow to help us write using evidence-based techniques. So that's what I'm going to pull up right now, and the top of it reads that it is titled the three-part source integration technique. Okay, so this front part, or this first part, is directed towards college students, and that's because a college professor actually used this AVID technique, and he made it, I think it was a he made it for his college students. So some of you guys are going to become college students, and so hopefully this helps you now and then also later on with your writing. Some of you will not, but using evidence-based writing is always a good idea because it helps you to explain your ideas clearly, and it also helps you to make your ideas trusted because they can be backed up with evidence. All right, so let's get into this part right here, the three parts. So part one, let me scroll down and show you on the second page that there are two templates that you can follow. So they're slightly different. So you can use either one and it'll help you get what you need as far as the product for your writing. So back up here, the three parts, and beginning with part one is the source and the author. Now switching back over to this page, the document, three-part source integration, is going to focus on a textbook. It's going to focus on writing. Well, the source that I gave you are two videos, so we are going to just transfer the information that we learned in video form to writing form. So when it says source, instead of writing the name of the book and who published it, we are going to be using the video creator. So the video creator for this one is PBS. It's an educational channel, and I am going to assume that many of you have heard of TED Talks, and so that organization actually has educational videos that are just supposed to be for education, and they are called TED Ed. So the sources are going to be PBS and TED Ed. Now, instead of author, actually on the second one, we actually have the author who is the same, the narrator. On the PBS video, instead of author, you can use the narrator's name because they will put her name up on the screen at the very beginning. So that's part one. On to part two. Citation verb, citation, and page number. So the citation verb, this professor has actually put a whole bunch of examples into this table here. So you could use these citation verbs, or if you have another one that works better, you can use that too. But this will at least help to get you started with your citation verb. Now, the citation is you pulling out a quote from either one video or from both videos. So instead of having a quote that you are pulling out of a paragraph in a textbook, you are having to really listen to the video, perhaps even write some of the information down, some of the words down that the narrators say, and that turns into your citation. So once again, you are using a quote or quotes from the video for your citation. Okay? And then instead of page number, we are going to be using minutes and seconds. So use wherever it is that you pull your quote from. Look at, let's do that for just a second. Okay.
With PPG Paint, you can make walls do amazing things.
3, 2, 1. Okay. So, on the bottom of your screen, you will always see how long the video is, and it keeps a running total as you go through. So instead of a page number, once again, you are going to be using the minutes and the seconds that your quote starts. So use the minutes and seconds at the beginning of when your quote starts, okay? So for example, let's pretend that we're taking a quote right off the top, and your page number, right, the time, is going to be 9:17 in your writing, okay? And for the third part, the citation's importance, this is where you explain what you learned about both videos about the Atlantic slave trade, and how the quote or quotes are good examples of what you learned. So this part is the explanation part. What the professor wrote is, comment on why this part of the text or your quote is important, relevant to the prompt, or significant in some other way. Now I'm going to pull up our assignment. Bring it into view. And this is your prompt. Explain what you learned from the two videos using the 3-part source integration technique or template, and then you are writing your answer inside of this box that I provided for you. So that is what you are answering. You are explaining what it is that you learned about the Atlantic slave trade, in this evidence-based writing assignment. Okay, one moment. There we go. Okay, so these are 3 different examples, right? So you need to read across to see how they incorporated part 1, part 2, and part 3. And if this was written kind of in a normal fashion, you would see that this is all one paragraph. Same thing with sample 2, and same thing with sample 3, okay? So, source and the author. Here is the quote, the citation that they used. Remember that you are using what the narrator says. Here is the page number. We are using the minutes and the seconds that the quote appears, and then an explanation about the quote. And yes, okay, so 3 different examples. You read across once again. And then here are the templates. So you can follow this word for word where you are inserting author's first and last name. We talked about how we're doing that in video style, in source, citation, right? And then you can use these last lines to help you start your explanation about what you learned about the Atlantic slave trade. So here is template number 2. It is very similar. They begin the explanation with this is a valuable point, and then you are talking about why those quotes help you, or are good examples of what it is that you learned about the Atlantic slave trade. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this, pull this back into view, and that is the end of the directions for the Atlantic slave trade. I hope I didn't talk too much. I wanted you guys to understand how to use that template, and please ask me questions if you have them. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.